Hey there, welcome back to True North Reviews. My name is Ryan, and today we are discussing Harry Styles' sophomore record, Fine Line. This was one of the final albums of 2019 I was hyped for. It was a bit odd to wait until the middle of December to release this, especially when the year is winding down, the decade too, only making it harder to review in time for year-end lists. Either way, the excitation was there with a number of good reasons. We had the stunning singles with Adore You, Watermelon Sugar, and Lights Up. I wasn't really the biggest fan of Lights Up since it was a flaccid attempt at penning an indie rock song. Either way, a flurry of promotions on James Corden's Late Late Show put my expectations back into the stratosphere, much like the incredible debut record from Harry did back in 2017, an epic and dad rock-laced kind of album that saw him embrace his rock star persona, something that One Direction couldn't afford him to explore while being a member there. A lot of the songs from Harry's debut were written by Tyler Johnson and Kid Harpoon. Both of these songwriters and producers have returned to assist Harry with this new record here, Fine Line. And the key thing to take away from this new album is how it feels much more personal and close to home for Harry. Fine Line is a record that hones in on a visual and thematic target. Not only is there a lot of discussion surrounding identity with speculations of sexuality and gender, but this is a colorful and vivid release that establishes a vision. And yes, knowing Harry's fashion and style, very much pun intended, and knowing that they're so glamorous as depicted on the album cover over here, I quite literally see a new chapter or movement being conceived in Harry's discography on Fine Line. One that is more daring, and my god, is it fun. This record is visually appealing. Each song fits a particular mold or image, and each of them sound refreshing in their own unique way. Fine Line couldn't have come at a better time. Harry replies to the haters of his debut record because he was even aware of the lyrical and sonic shortcomings, all the places where he played things safe. Instead, Harry let loose with the second album, and he just wanted to be himself, and he definitely showed that. From the howls of his vocals to the high-pitched harmonies and string arrangements to even the perfectly timed and executed conga solo, this album is lighthearted while remaining fantastically introspective and gripping. For the carefree and joyful songs on this project, we have the classically 70s sounding opener of Golden, the cute and endearing Adore You, and extremely optimistic Treat People with Kindness, which all three of these songs remain cool and collected on the surface with the vocal deliveries, but also strut around with some wacky and zany behavior, effectively achieving what Harry set out to do. But this album isn't always fun and games though. Harry notably went through a breakup with Victoria's Secret model Camille Rowe, and for the middle portion of this record, a majority of the lyrics outline a roller coaster and tumultuous mindset, almost playing out like the stages of grief. For example, we have the anger-ridden track number 5, Cherry, that sees Harry tell his former lover not to call other men by the nicknames he was given, Baby especially. The subsequent track of Falling is the depressive episode in Harry's mind that sees him in bed alone, drinking, questioning if he actually loves himself, loves who he is becoming. I actually got chills while listening to the song Falling, by the way. The hair on my arm stood up after the first listen, and it truly is an empathetic piano ballad that delves deep into the crippling life experience that was a low point emotionally for Harry, but it also acts as the high point musically and lyrically on the record, Fine Line. The word falling is literally a fine line. Either you're falling flat on your face out of control, or you're giving in to the higher power of love and instilling this sense of confidence. This surely is a nuanced and ambiguous spin on the word that is creative even in the depths of Harry's heartbreak. Now, continuing with the story arc of grief on the next track, To Be So Lonely, Harry quickly subverts the obsession and power dynamic with his former lover. He has essentially moved on and doesn't want her to call him baby anymore, which is a mature growth from the passive-aggressive song of Cherry. I guess the song To Be So Lonely is the equivalent of the drunk phone call that comes after the intense and overwhelming contemplation of vulnerable emotions on the previous tracks. Meanwhile, the song She pushes the storytelling of grief to another level into the clouds as Harry daydreams about his ideal relationship. On this track, I love how Harry switches his focus from third person in the verses to first person in the chorus. It conveys how much he wants this to be true for himself and not just anyone he sees walking down the street. Structurally, the song She is ambitious. It's 6 minutes in length, and it's incredible to have Harry give the time and attention to the virtuosic guitar solo on this track. It's almost as if the song She was meant to be the euphoric opus sequel to Sign of the Times, and for that I am extremely grateful for this impassioned and fevered piece of piano rock. Going back to the fun side of Harry, on this album there's a song Canyon Moon, which makes use of congas and whistles. There is a descending melody that is fun to harmonize with. The guitars sound like Bob Seger mixed with later era Led Zeppelin. And essentially the narrative on this song is all about longing to go home. We have Harry completing this story arc about grief before he continues to treat others kindly on the track Treat People with Kindness. On that cut, I adore the female vocals that are on there. And then we have the final track on this album, which is the title track. We have Harry somehow teaching me new words with trepidation. I did not know what that meant before this review. So I'm learning, always learning. This last song kind of leaves things on a weird note, not lyrically, as it did summarize everything very nicely, what's going on with this record, but the dynamic build towards the horns and drum outro kind of feels out of place, and the synthesized elements kind of come off a little cheap in the production department. And I guess while we're on the topic of negatives, I would say that there's only one other song that isn't up to par with the quality of this entire record. I know it does kind of push Harry out of his comfort zone with his traditional songwriting. The eclectic and summary track of Sunflower Volume 6, this one is an odd one on the album, definitely the weirdest. It's like late 60s era Beatles meeting Awaken My Love era Childish Gambino while throwing in some Vampire Weekend influence just for the heck of it. It's not the only time that Harry has some bizarre moments on this album, because he also has an infatuation with fruit, obviously playing well into the colorful explosion of Fine Line. And yeah, I counted 4 references to fruit on this one. 2 on the song Watermelon Sugar, as we have a reference to strawberries, and then we have a reference to a watermelon, of course. Another one on Adore You for Strawberry Lipstick State of Mind, and then the title of Cherry. And I guess with that, many of the uncanny things on this record, they don't leave a bad taste in my mouth, at least. They are quite sweet, as there almost is like this weird sense of familiarity when it comes to Harry's music. Whether it be the sweet strums to the acoustic guitar, the infectious melodies that are God-sent and so effortlessly smooth, or even the inspiration for the music and Harry, how he's modeling himself after the likes of Elton John or David Bowie. There's undoubtedly a lot of influence from rock artists of the 60s and 70s on this album, but there's also a modernization of cool and chill vibes that makes Harry's sound and brand really interesting in my opinion. Not to mention Harry's finesse with balancing things on a razor blade. He's constantly on the cusp of breaking down emotionally on this record, but somehow he manages to keep it together. I guess the closest he gets to letting his guard down is on the song Falling, which is still the golden peak for vocal performances on here. And from there on out, the rest of the track listing is watertight, and this record pieces things together with a positive outlook, with a super slick and cool attitude. And although not as passionate, grand, or epic as the debut, Harry Styles, he tightened up his lyrics on Fine Line with much more personal insights that I can take away with a great amount of entertainment. It's another compelling and likable release from my favorite One Direction member, and the gap in musical and songwriting talent between Harry and the rest of the members of One Direction, it widens with this album, only making it harder for the other members to keep up and remain relevant in the next decade. So yeah, I am feeling an 8 out of 10 on Harry Styles' Fine Line. Make sure you sound off down below in the comments. Let me know what you think of this music. Did you enjoy it? Did you dislike it? Leave a like, subscribe if you're new in town. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a rockin' day.